Have you ever had that feeling, that moment when you realize something big is happening right before your eyes, and the world hasn't quite caught on yet? Well, take a deep breath, because this might just be one of those moments. Reports are exploding across global financial circles that the Vietnamese Dong, yes, the Dong has just gone live inside international banking systems. Not rumors, not screenshots, real system updates. And if that's true, this could be one of the most historic currency shifts in modern financial history. One that could send ripples across Asia, and maybe even touch Iraq and the dinar we've been following so closely. Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News Today, your source for clear, fact-based updates on global currency movements and what they could mean for everyday investors. Today, we're diving deep into the story that's lighting up trading desks around the world. Let's break it down piece by piece in a way that's simple, logical, and impossible to ignore. The shocking headline is the Vietnamese Dong going live, so here's what's being reported. According to multiple internal banking sources, new live rates for the Vietnamese Dong have begun showing up on certain global trading platforms, actual back-end systems used by banks and financial institutions. This isn't the usual online speculation or a random post from a forum. Insiders claim these rates are visible inside the secure systems that banks use to trade currencies globally. Now, if that sounds huge, it's because it is. Currency rates, especially for major developing economies, don't just change overnight without coordination. Such an event, if verified, would mean that central banks, international regulators, and major financial networks are moving in sync behind the scenes. It suggests one thing, that the revaluation process, long talked about but never officially confirmed, may be entering its final technical stage. Zooming out, why Vietnam matters. To understand why this is shaking up the financial world, we need to step back and look at Vietnam itself. Over the last decade, Vietnam has transformed from a developing nation into one of Asia's most dynamic manufacturing powerhouses. It's not just producing basic goods anymore. Vietnam is now home to major factories for Samsung, Apple, Intel, and dozens of global tech giants. In other words, Vietnam has become the engine room of the global supply chain. Its young, skilled, and highly motivated workforce, combined with affordable operational costs, has made it a magnet for foreign investment. And thanks to trade agreements like the EVFTA with the European Union and expanding relations with the United States, its economy has surged year after year. But here's the interesting part. Despite all that economic power, the Vietnamese Dong has remained undervalued, dramatically so. For years, economists have said that the Dong's exchange rate simply doesn't reflect Vietnam's true production strength. Keeping it low made exports cheap and helped the country's early growth. But now, as the economy matures, that strategy may no longer make sense. And that's where today's story begins to make sense. Because if these reports are true, if Vietnam's Dong is being updated to reflect a higher value, then we could be witnessing a long overdue correction, a realignment of value to match reality. Behind the curtain. What live actually means now, before anyone rushes to the bank, let's clarify what live really means in the world of global finance. When insiders say a currency has gone live, it doesn't necessarily mean you can walk into your local bank and exchange it at a new rate right away. In banking terms, live often refers to internal activation, meaning the new rates are now visible on the back-end systems used by international traders and financial institutions. Think of it like a movie premiere. The lights are on. The cameras are rolling. The cast is ready. But the curtain hasn't yet opened for the audience. This is a testing phase when systems like Swift or Oracle banking sync up and ensure that everything works smoothly before the public sees it. So if you're hearing that the Vietnamese Dong is live, it likely means the technical infrastructure is being aligned, the final step before a public reveal. Connecting the dots. Vietnam and Iraq now. Why is this so important for our community, the people following the Iraqi dinar story? Because for years, the Dong and the dinar have been discussed together in conversations about global currency reform. Both countries share surprisingly similar paths, long histories of conflict and rebuilding, economies rich in resources and potential, and central banks working tirelessly to modernize and align with international systems. Vietnam built its transformation through manufacturing and exports. Iraq has been rebuilding its economy through modernization, digital reforms, and diversification beyond oil. Just in the past few years, Iraq has launched national financial inclusion projects, upgraded its public financial management systems, and tightened compliance with international anti-money laundering standards. That's not speculation. Those are documented facts in reports from the IMF and World Bank. So when both of these nations, on parallel modernization paths, begin showing signs of currency movement at the same time, it doesn't feel random. It feels coordinated. Some analysts believe this could be part of a larger global rebalancing effort where undervalued emerging economies are finally recognized for their true worth. Why now? Why 2025? It's a fair question. Why would this be happening now in 2025? The answer lies in three words: timing, technology, and transformation. The global financial system is in the middle of the most dramatic shift in decades. Countries everywhere are digitizing their banking systems, improving transparency, and preparing for the future of money, including central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Vietnam's state bank has already rolled out nationwide digital payment systems, linking its citizens and businesses into a unified electronic network that meets international standards. Iraq is doing the same, working with the IMF and World Bank to connect to global payment systems, improve governance, and build trust. When a country finishes these foundational upgrades, it often signals that it's ready for the next big step, a currency adjustment that reflects its true economic maturity. What exactly is a revaluation? Let's quickly unpack that term, because it's central to everything we're discussing. A currency revaluation is when a country officially raises the value of its currency compared to others. It's not a slow, market-driven change. It's a deliberate decision by that country's central bank and government. Why do this? Because sometimes, as a nation grows stronger, its currency doesn't keep up. Vietnam's Dong, for example, has remained low for years to make exports cheap. But when a country reaches a point where its economy is booming, with record exports, rising foreign investment, and a growing middle class, it may choose to strengthen its currency to give its citizens more purchasing power and increase stability. That's what may be happening now. And if this revaluation is confirmed, it won't just affect Vietnam. It could send waves across the entire global market. The ripple effect. Global impact. Let's imagine for a moment that the reports are true and the Vietnamese Dong is revalued upward. What happens next? First, Vietnam gains greater purchasing power, meaning its citizens can buy more imports, businesses can afford more materials, and its economy becomes even stronger internally. Second, global corporations may start adjusting their trade and pricing strategies, because a stronger dong changes the cost of doing business in Vietnam. Third, investors around the world take notice. A currency revaluation signals stability and confidence, which attracts even more foreign capital into that country. And finally, here's where Iraq comes in again. Such a shift could inspire other developing nations with undervalued currencies to follow suit. Grounded reality, staying smart amid the hype now. Let's slow down for a moment. We've heard similar rumors before, and not every report turns into public reality overnight. That's why the smart move is always to stay calm, stay informed, and stay patient. When an official revaluation happens, it's not secret. You won't need an inside source. It'll be announced by the central bank, recognized by international institutions, and reflected in every licensed bank system across the globe. That's how legitimate currency changes work, publicly, transparently, and under full regulation. So if you see private groups claiming to have exclusive exchange access or special rates, that's your cue to step back. Real global financial updates don't happen in back rooms, they happen in the open. What this could mean for Iraq now, let's bring it home. What could this mean for Iraq? If the Vietnamese Dong's revaluation is real, it could set a precedent for other nations that have been through long economic rebuilding processes, nations like Iraq. Iraq's modern reforms, digital banking systems, improved transparency, international partnerships, have laid the groundwork for a stronger and more stable Iraqi dinar. A revaluation, if and when it comes, would be more than just an economic event. It would be symbolic, a signal that Iraq has turned a corner, regaining financial sovereignty and stability after years of struggle. Imagine an Iraq where oil revenue translates into domestic strength, where digital banking replaces cash dependency, and where foreign investors see a transparent, trustworthy market. That's not fantasy, that's the direction Iraq is actively moving toward right now. Regional domino effect: if Vietnam moves, and Iraq follows, the ripple could extend even further. In Southeast Asia, other developing economies may start reviewing their own exchange rate strategies to remain competitive. In the Middle East, Iraq's move could encourage broader reforms and financial modernization across the region. It's what some experts call a global financial reset. Not a collapse, but a realignment. A gradual shift toward a world where value is more evenly distributed among nations that actually produce, innovate, and contribute to the global economy. That's a healthier, more balanced financial world, and maybe, just maybe, we're seeing the first signs of that transformation. The global context. 2025 and beyond. Look around. 2025 is already a landmark year for global finance. Dozens of countries are launching pilot programs for digital currencies. Cross-border payment systems are becoming faster, more transparent, and more inclusive. We're moving into an era where technology and transparency rule the financial landscape. Both Vietnam and Iraq have worked hard to modernize, to become part of this new era, and it seems that effort is finally being recognized. If these currency movements are indeed happening behind the scenes, it's likely the result of years of quiet preparation, international coordination, and careful planning. Nothing this big happens overnight. It's built step by step, reform by reform, connection by connection. A fairer financial world. Let's zoom out one final time. If the Vietnamese Dong's internal activation is real, it could represent something much larger than just one nation's success. It could mark the beginning of a new era, where emerging economies are finally recognized for their true strength. For too long, critics have said that the global system undervalues developing nations. Now, perhaps, we're seeing the world begin to rebalance. A system where the value of a nation's currency reflects its real productivity, innovation, and potential. That's not just good for those countries, it's good for global stability. Because when economies rise together, trade becomes fairer, debt pressures ease, and opportunity expands. Final thoughts. So, what's really happening right now? According to these widespread reports, the Vietnamese Dong may have quietly gone live inside global banking systems. The Iraqi dinar is showing signs of synchronized modernization. Global payment networks are aligning, financial systems are upgrading, and emerging nations are stepping into their power. We've talked about this possibility for years. Now, in 2025, it finally feels like we're standing on the edge of it, watching the theory become reality. Whether this turns out to be the long-awaited revaluation or just the next stage in global financial evolution, one thing is clear. The world of money is changing, and it's changing fast. And that's where we'll leave it for today. If you found this update insightful, don't forget to give it a like. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who care about these developments. Share your thoughts below. Do you think the Dong is really live? And what would that mean for Iraq and the dinar in the coming months? I'd love to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching Iraqi Dinar News Today, your trusted source for clear, thoughtful coverage of global currency updates. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay hopeful. Until next time. Disclaimer: the information provided on Iraqi Dinar News Today is for educational and informational purposes only. We do not provide financial, investment, or trading advice. All content shared on this channel is based on publicly available data and personal opinions. Viewers are advised to do their own research and consult a licensed financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Iraqi Dinar News Today is not affiliated with any government agency, bank, or financial institution.